Hello everyone and welcome to another casual revisit. Today we are talking about Donkey Kong 94 once again. When I originally played through this game, it was through the actual Game Boy cartridge. This time I played it through the NSO. And I usually am not a snob when it comes to what kind of platform you do play certain games on. It's just like whatever is most convenient to you, whatever is the most accessible to you, that is how you should play that game. But I do feel like some of the game's charm is lost when you are playing on a Nintendo Switch compared to an original Game Boy. That being said, it was kind of fun playing on a big TV screen, and the rewind features were nice for those more particularly frustrating moments. The game starts out pretty faithful to the original arcade version of Donkey Kong, but after the original 4 levels, there is a twist, and Donkey Kong continues to grab Pauline and run away. When I originally did my casual review for this game, this really surprised me, and I'm happy that I got that surprising moment because I thought I was just going to sit down and play maybe like a 5 to 10 minute experience when really this is like a fully fledged game with over 100 levels. The level select is fairly simplistic, and unfortunately you are not able to go back and replay previous levels. Let's say you are going for that 100% completion, you are not able to replay old levels. You're just going to have to start a new file, I guess. There aren't any branching pathways either. It's pretty much a single line that zigzags along a map. You go to, I think it's 9 different worlds, and the world's aesthetics do provide a wide variety of images and scenes that you are playing through. It's not just like, oh, here's the forest level, here's the jungle level, here's the ice level. There is some of that, but there's also like, here's like, it's not called New Donk City, although that would have been like way cool, but it's like, here's a city kind of world that you're playing through. And now we're playing through more like on an airplane, I guess, and then you're like climbing Donkey Kong Tower near the end of the game. Every 4 levels or so, there's going to be like a boss battle with Donkey Kong, where either it's more like the traditional levels of Donkey Kong where you're just trying to get up to where Pauline is while Donkey Kong's like throwing barrels at you. And then at the last level of each world, you get to fight back a little bit by picking up barrels and tossing them at Donkey Kong. The traditional levels are more like Donkey Kong grabs Pauline and takes her through a locked door, and as Mario, you have to go find wherever the key is, and then you have to navigate back to where the door is. And this allows some really charming, tight level building. It's not so much like traditional Mario games where you're going from point A to point B. Here's like this compact level of obstacles and little puzzles and mechanics, and you have to navigate through this tight area to grab the key and get back. And that is one of the reasons that I think that this game really shines on the Game Boy, because like this game was obviously meant for a Game Boy screen. That being said, there were some frustrating moments where a flying obstacle would fly so fast from off the screen and hit me, and my reaction time just isn't good enough to dodge those barrels or projectiles. Mario's movement is surprisingly fluid. Like, he can do a little backflip if you're going one way and quickly turn the other way while jumping. He can do this like handstand move where he hops onto his hands and walks around, and this actually will deflect projectiles falling down from above, and then he can kind of do this little handspring from that, and then even do a taller jump from there. He can grab onto these like hanging wires and do like flips off of them. And when I think of platforming on a original Game Boy, I'm thinking something like Super Mario Land, like very clunky movement. Your character is very limited in their movements, but that is not the case here. Like, there is a lot of expression and animation and movement options that Mario has, in a way that you're almost allowed to like sometimes bypass certain intended pathways. There were many moments while I was playing through this game and I beat the level and I'm thinking to myself, like, was that what I was supposed to do? Because that seemed very difficult to pull off. Like, I don't know if the designers intended for me to play through that way, but I was able to do it because of Mario's movement. I also really enjoy how expressive and animated Mario is. When he falls from a certain distance, he'll kind of do this little dodge roll on the ground, which can be frustrating if you're trying to do these tight platformings and you roll off the ledge. Or if he falls from an even higher distance, he'll just like slam into the ground and his leg will be up in the air, kind of doing this little twitching move. There's other like animations, like if he gets burned, then he turns into like this flaming charred guy, and like whenever he does die, he'll get this little halo above his head. And I love experiencing really old games like this on limited platforms like the Game Boy, because I really enjoy seeing a well-crafted game within certain limitations. Like, how did these developers pull off all these moves and animations and fluidity on such limited software? It's really impressive. And that includes the soundtrack as well. A ton of really catchy chiptune songs that are stuck in my head ever since playing the game. There's a decent amount of new enemies that I don't know what their names are, but they're enemies that I haven't seen in any other Mario game. Like, there are these plants that do spit these projectiles at you that I guess kinda look like piranha plants, or there's one that's really reminiscent of that plant that you see in Super Mario World that shoots out like 4 projectiles and then they slowly hover down to the ground. There's kind of like a mechanic like from Super Mario Bros. 2, where you can jump on top of certain enemies, pick them up, and then throw them. This also works for the key too, because when you pick up the key, you can throw the key and it will defeat certain enemies. The problem with using the key loosey-goosey like that is the key will eventually teleport back to its origin point if you don't pick it up within a certain amount of time. And so some of the puzzles kind of revolve around that. You gotta like pick up the key, throw it onto a platform, and then you have to hurry and run over to that platform to pick up the key again before it spawns back in its original place. There's a lot of really fun little mechanics that are like simple, but lend themselves to a lot of variety in terms of the gameplay. Like, there are these certain blocks that you can go and touch, and then you get to choose where to place them, and this kind of like creates platforms or ladders or springs. And so you're almost like kind of creating your own platforming areas to navigate throughout the level. And you're also doing this like pickup thing with certain enemies. So like, for instance, certain levels are icy and you can't navigate until the fiery enemies walk across the ice platform and melt it, which will gain you access. There's also like the hammers from the original Donkey Kong as well, where you can destroy walls, destroy enemies. Sometimes you have to kind of like throw them up in the air, climb to the platform above them, and then catch them and then continue going with the hammer. And as you can imagine, especially near the end of the game, trying to pull all of these things off with this quick timing can be fairly tricky. I would say the majority of the game isn't too bad, especially if you're playing the NSO version and you are allowing yourself to rewind if you want to go that route, but they do throw a ton of lives at you. If you acquire these items throughout each level, I think there's like a purse, a parasol, and something else. As you collect these items, when you beat a level, you do have the opportunity to earn more lives by means of like this slot machine or a roulette. And so they are constantly throwing lives at you, but they are also not afraid to take away your lives, especially at some of these later levels, because the difficulty ramps up quite significantly. And the levels themselves like aren't too long. Typically each level is going to take you maybe, I would wager maybe like 2 to 5 minutes, depending on the level, depending on your skill, but it can be fairly frustrating if you're like so close to beating the level. You got the key, you made it all the way to the key, you made it all the way back to the door, and then just right before you get to that door, you die, and then you have to start the whole level over again. That can be quite demoralizing. Usually I didn't have to worry about the time limit running out. I do think that they are pretty generous in the time limit. I don't even know why they have the time limit, but I never died to the time running out. Usually it was to some kind of projectile hitting me, or maybe I fell from too far of a distance, because there is fall damage in this game. So there definitely can be some frustrating moments while playing through the game. I like how Donkey Kong Jr. makes a major appearance in this game as well. Originally it's just Mario, Donkey Kong, and Pauline, and eventually DK Jr. pops up, and usually his job is to manipulate these switches that change your platforming or close off doors and you have to wait for him to go flip the switch again. And I also like that after you beat one of these boss battles, then you get this cute little animation of like Mario chasing after Donkey Kong and Pauline and potentially Donkey Kong Jr. And then it kind of like showcases some of these mechanics that you may be interacting with in future levels. Like Mario will do this little handstand as he's walking towards Donkey Kong, and you can visibly see, oh, if I do a handstand, then barrels falling from above won't hurt me. Or he'll kind of do like this little aerial flip, this little backflip, and you're like, oh, if I'm going in one direction and then quickly change in the other direction while jumping, I can do a little backflip. And so I think it was a really entertaining, quick way to introduce the various mechanics in this game to you without feeling very much like a tutorial. I know that earlier I did say that it is a fairly long game. At least I think it is in terms of like Game Boy games. Like if I'm comparing this game to something like Super Mario Land, it feels like quite the long game. Usually I associate Game Boy games with, hey, I'm going to sit down, play this for like maybe up to an hour, beat it, and then be done with my day. But this game took me about 4 hours. It is still fairly short on like in the video game sphere of things, but as far as like a Game Boy game, yeah, this is a fairly beefy game, and you are going to get a decent level of entertainment out of it if you actually sit down to play this one. Last time I did a casual review on Donkey Kong 94, I gave it a 5 out of 5, and this time I think I'm going to stick with that score. I do think that this is one of the best Game Boy games that exist, at least in terms of the ones that I've played. And if you like these puzzle platformers, I think that this game still offers a lot of enjoyment despite it being 30 years old at this point. Well guys, that's it for me. Let me know if you have any questions or comments about Donkey Kong 94, and I'd love to hear what you have to say. Otherwise, I'll talk to you later. Bye!